Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. And before we begin, as always, check out everything in our description below, where you can go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert. And of course, visit our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and also sign up for our expert picks, where for just $30, you will receive every single one of our 2019 college football spread picks, including the postseason. And we are already off to a great start, only 2 weeks into the season, so I can promise you our expert picks is a deal that you do not want to pass up. So of course, as many of you know, the Week 3 Top 25 rankings were released just yesterday at the conclusion of Week 2. And unlike Week 1 to Week 2, Week 2 to Week 3 saw some major shakeups in these top 25 rankings. And of course, we're here to break it all down for you and share our analysis and whether, of course, we agree or disagree with this new AP Top 25 poll. So as you can see, the top 3 teams remained unchanged entering Week 3. Clemson still number 1 after their impressive win over Texas A&M in Death Valley. The Tigers taking care of Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies 24-10. Of course, Texas A&M scoring a late touchdown to make it look a little closer than the game really was. Alabama took easy care of New Mexico State, and Georgia, of course, took easy care of Murray State. So no issues there for the top 3 teams in the country. I think that's very undisputed. Our first little shakeup comes at number 4. LSU with an impressive victory in Austin over what was then the 9th-ranked Texas Longhorns. LSU went in and defeated them 45-38 behind another dominant performance from Joe Burrow. And I gotta say, this LSU team is scary good in 2019. We have not seen an LSU offense like that in recent memory, maybe even ever. And even if you can think of one, we certainly have not seen this type of LSU passing attack. Joe Burrow looks like the real deal, and LSU absolutely deserves this number 4 spot going into Week 3. They jumped only 2 spots from 6th to 4th, but if the playoffs were to happen today, LSU would be in it, and they would rightfully deserve to be in it. Right below them, we have Oklahoma and Ohio State, both teams taking fairly easy care. More impressive, I would say, from Ohio State this week after taking easy care of Cincinnati, shutting out the Bearcats. I think a lot of people had Cincinnati as not a potential trendy upset pick to go into Columbus and upset the Buckeyes, but at least keep that game close. And right out of the gate, Justin Fields and Ryan Day said, we don't want this to be close. We do not care what people think. And they annihilated Cincinnati, who the week before had defeated UCLA, which now isn't that impressive now that the Bruins have dropped back-to-back games to Group of 5 opponents. Number 7 is Notre Dame. Number 8 is Auburn, who had a rough start against Tulane but ended up beating them 24-6. Florida is back into the top 10. They dropped out after that disappointing Miami performance in Week 0. They took easy care of, I believe it was UT Martin in Week 2. They are back in the top 10, followed by Michigan, who dropped 3 spots after their narrow double overtime victory against Army. So Michigan absolutely deserved to drop from 7th to 10th after an embarrassing performance, in my opinion. Not to say Army is a bad team, because Army is a very good team, a very talented team. Jeff Monken continues to do a good job at West Point. Could it very well have them at 12-1 by the end of this season. But Michigan is supposed to be a college football playoff contender, and they did not look like it. Not in Week 1 against Middle Tennessee State. They certainly didn't look like it in Week 2 against Army. Some poor play calling, some poor defensive performances, but they ended up coming through clutch in double overtime. So there's your top 10. I don't have any discrepancies there. I think they did a fairly solid job ranking these top 10 teams. I would agree that these are the top 10 teams in the nation right now, even though maybe I would even slide Utah just above Michigan because of how poorly Michigan has played the past 2 weeks. Hopefully they'll get things straightened out without they have a bye week in Week 3, getting prepped for a huge game on the road against 14th-ranked Wisconsin, who looks like one of the better teams in the country right now after beating Central Michigan 61-0 in Week 2. They've outscored their opponent 110-0 the past 2 games. They beat South Florida, of course, 49-0 behind another dominant performance by Jonathan Taylor. He did the same thing in Week 2 against Central Michigan. And Wisconsin, for teams that were already in the rankings, had the highest rise, rising up 3 spots, going from 17th to 14th. And once again, very well deserved for the Badgers. We could be seeing ourselves with a top 15 showdown between Michigan and Wisconsin in Week 4. There are 3 new teams to the rankings. I'm sure you figured that out, especially if you're a fan of these teams. And we'll start with the one that 100% deserves to be in there, Maryland. The Terrapins sitting up at number 21 right now. Fear the turtle, as many people have said. We want Maryland. It used to be we want Alabama, we want Clemson, we want Maryland. Tell you what, Mike Locksley has done a phenomenal job in just 2 weeks, making Maryland one of the most feared teams in the Big Ten. Yes, and I said one of the most feared teams in the Big Ten. They shut out Howard 79-0. Big deal. What's impressive about that? Nothing, really. Just the amount of points that they scored. What was impressive was staying at home in week 2 and beating number 21 Syracuse 63-20. The most lopsided victory for an unranked team over a ranked opponent since 1999. That's what was impressive. Josh Jackson and this rushing game for the Terrapins, not to mention their defense, who shut out Howard and only held Syracuse to just 20 points. They look legit. They're scary good. I didn't have high expectations for Maryland in 2019, but I'm going to have to change my tune after what I've seen the past 2 weeks. Terrapins rightfully deserve to be in the top 25. 21, a very good spot for them as they inch closer to Big Ten Conference play. We also have another newcomer with USC, who in a battle between backup quarterbacks, Stanford, of course, being without KJ Costello, and then, of course, USC being without JT Daniels. But the Trojans upset the Cardinals, who were number 23 in the country last week, 45-20 at the Coliseum. It's a close game up until halftime. Clay Helton said, "We'll take the rest from here." And Clay Helton, of course, saving his job right now, a guy that entered 2019 firmly on the hot seat, escaped Fresno State in week 1, just took care of business against Stanford. Can they continue this success with another big game coming up against BYU, and then, of course, getting into the bulk of Pac-12 play coming up? But USC looking solid. Hopefully Graham Harrell can keep that air raid going with, obviously, questions at the quarterback position. And then finally, the last team that was a newcomer to the top 25, should have been in the top 25 a long time ago, in my opinion, and that is Virginia, coming in at 25th. They opened week 1 with an impressive victory over an ACC foe in Pittsburgh. Came back last week, defeating an FCS opponent, not a big deal. But Virginia is a team that for many is the favorite in the ACC Coastal. It was really supposed to be a race between Virginia and Miami. Miami certainly isn't looking the part. Now it could be a race between Virginia and North Carolina. Matt Brown quickly, after being out of the game for 6 years, having not coached in 2013, has quickly turned around this Tar Heels team who went 2-9 last year. They're 2-0 this year. But Virginia should have been in there a long time ago. Huge fan of Bryce Perkins. Huge fan of Bronco Mendenhall doing a phenomenal job with this Cavaliers program. They cracked the top 25 entering week 3. So we mentioned the biggest riser, which is, of course, Wisconsin, if you're counting teams that were ranked last week. How about the biggest fallers, the teams that fell the most after week 2? We mentioned Michigan, who dropped 3 spots after that narrow victory over Army. Texas, and that narrow loss to LSU, an impressive performance by the Longhorns, over 400 yards from Sam Ehlinger, but missed opportunities down the road. Couldn't convert off of LSU's interception from Joe Burrow. Dropped a wide open touchdown in the end zone. So Texas could have won this game. They were unable to take advantage of their opportunities. The Longhorns fell from 9th to 12th. They're still a top 12 team. College football playoff hopes are not dashed. Big 12 title hopes are not dashed. They just don't have a lot of room for error the rest of this season. Texas A&M lost to Clemson by 14 points. Of course, they only really lost by 21. That game was 24-3 before Texas A&M injured an over 90-yard drive to close out the game, scoring a touchdown with 6 seconds left to lose by 14. People like me rejoicing if you took Texas A&M and the points. People like many others that I know not very happy if they took Clemson giving up the amount of points. But Texas A&M dropping from 12th to 16th after that loss in Death Valley. But the biggest faller, of course, was Washington. The Huskies dropping 9 spots from 14th to 23rd after an upset loss at home to California. The Golden Bears beating the Huskies for the second straight year, for the first time since 2006. They also snapped Washington's 15-game home winning streak. Didn't have very high expectations for Cal because of their poor offense. And I will say that their offense did not look that impressive in this game against Washington. But of course we said the strength was their defense, and they did just that. Jacob Eason had the dominant performance in week 1 against Eastern Washington, had a decent performance here against California, but not nearly as good as Chris Peterson needed it to be. California's defense stepped it up, shut down a potent Chris Peterson offense, won against the Huskies. They're 2-0, and Washington dropped 9 spots. Their college football playoff hopes took a major hit with this loss. The Pac-12's college football playoff hopes now rely in the hands of Utah, the highest-ranked Pac-12 team going into Week 3. The Utes really are the Pac-12's only hope. Oregon fell in Week 1 to Auburn. They're going to have to pretty much run the table if they want to make the playoff. Same for Washington, just fell to California. They got to run the table if they want to make the playoff. Utah's undefeated, a one-loss Utah team, depending on who that loss is to, assuming they win the Pac-12 championship, could be the only hope for the Pac-12 if they want to make the coveted top 4. Of course, conference breakdown, we do this every week. The Big Ten leads the way in this top 25 with 7 representatives, the SEC with 6, but of course the SEC taking up half of the top 10. And that's the kicker. It's impressive to have many of your conference members ranked, but where are they ranked? The SEC, despite struggling in Week 1, still has some elite teams, half of the top 10. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, 3 in a row there, making the top 4 if the playoffs were to begin today. And then, of course, Auburn and Florida rounding out the top 10 or nearing the end of the top 10 for 5 SEC teams in the top 10, 6 SEC teams in the top 25. The Pac-12 has 5 teams in this rankings. ACC has 2. The Big 12 has 2. The Group of 5 has 2. And then, of course, you have 1 from the independents, that being, of course, Notre Dame, coming in at number 7. So this is a very solid crew of rankings. I don't have many discrepancies with it. The teams that are new to the rankings deserve to be there. LSU deserves to be at 4th. Washington certainly deserves to be the biggest faller. And Wisconsin is looking very sharp and deserves to be the biggest riser. These rankings look solid, but unfortunately for us, we won't see any ranked versus ranked matchups in Week 3. For the first time since October 14th, 2017, we will not have a ranked versus ranked matchup in college football. But I can guarantee you this, that will not mean you will not see a ranked team fall in Week 3. Just because there's not a ranked versus ranked matchup does not mean that you will not see a ranked team fall this week. I can guarantee you that will happen. Top 25 teams will not go 25-0 in Week 3. We saw 6 teams in the top 25 fall in Week 2. I can guarantee you there will be a handful in Week 3 as well. But here's your top 25 entering Week 3 of college football. Things really get started on Friday night with a slate of 3 exciting games. And of course, we're going to be covering everything for you right here at the Gridiron Expert, and you don't want to miss a single bit of it. So guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure you go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert. Of course, check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and also sign up for our expert picks, where for just $30, you will receive every single one of our 2019 college football spread picks. And like I said, go watch our previous videos. You can see how well we're doing against the spread. You do not want to miss out on these opportunities, and you do not want to miss out on our Week 3 expert picks. And once again, guys, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.